Thank you very much, Bindhu, for being here today. It's really nice to see you back in action. So
Thank you.
today this is my name is Anushly, and I'm grateful to host this uh, conference space, which is focused with the theme on cognitive bias. So as a coaching supervisor, as a coach, I've noticed that we all have our own cognitive biases, which we are working on. It's a work in progress every day, every moment for all of us, because as long as we have a mind, we have a bias. So it's a work in progress. How can we minimize? So the aspiration of this particular conference is how can we minimize that bias by, if you're a client who's listening to this, by sitting with a coach like Bindu or somebody, or if you're a coach who have such biases, how can you sit with a coaching supervisor and work on your own biases from your coaching practice? So to start off, let's get to know, let the audience get to know a little bit about Bindu. So Bindu, tell me about your own journey of becoming a coach and what has been really been meaningful to you about this journey of becoming a coach.
See, Anushli, as you know, I'm uh, I'm actually a core HR professional, you know, who has had who had the made a foolish decision to take a sabbatical just before COVID stuck. So the sabbatical turned out to be rather longer, much longer than expected, and I was climbing the walls. And coaching was, forced on me by the people in my life who got tired of me climbing the walls and eating their head and trying to find productive things to do. And I actually walked into it, with a bit of a challenge challenging in my mind. How do people know if this is going to work for me? Because it was not my choice to come into it. It was something that was strongly and forcibly suggested by my better half, who was actually very tired of my frustration and put in my way. But the very first time that I had an exposure to it, the classic ICF way of coaching, it tremendously appealed to me, because I found that this is, without knowing what it is, this is something that is at the core of what I have always been contributing as a HR professional. And it was enormously fulfilling a part of me uh, that was into exploring exploring of my own self, basically. So coaching for me has been you can broadly call it a deeper journey into myself. And it kind of I could say augmented, sometimes it stood in, it was my only practice, um, connecting me to my, keeping me grounded, keeping me connected to my spiritual side, basically. uh, when everything else failed to appeal, coaching still worked. Developing the mindset of a coach really kept me, you know, connected to that side when everything was falling apart all around. How the situation was, everything was all around, everything was disintegrating, or uh, changing into a different uh, state of being, because of whatever the world was going through in those 2 3 years. This kept me grounded, this took me more into myself. And I think if I was able to connect better with everyone outside when I traveled more inside, you know That's a very strange thing to say, but that's how it is, basically. That's how I have experienced it.
I did love the part how you say that when you connect, you travel inside, you're able to travel with people outside much more easily. And that's so powerful, I have to say. And it reminds me of Rumi, who has said wonderful multiple quotes on that, the importance of going inside. And I think as a coach, we all are trying to do that, helping our clients to go inside and see what they are not able to see on their own, and help them to work on their own biases. So today's session focus has been about this specific bias, uh, this conversation about this bias called spotlight effect. Okay. So for the audience to know like what it means when we say the spotlight effect is like we kind of overestimate how much people are paying attention to our behaviors and appearances. So for an example, like you're so worried about how you're dressed up when you're going for an event, or what footwear you're wearing, or um, what is that you're carrying with you. Basically, you can keep on saying like I have even seen that people like going to insane extremes when it comes to this spotlight effect bias, cognitive bias. So I like to know, in your point of view, based on your coaching practice or maybe in your own real life experience, how do you see this cognitive bias, and what would you like to share about that based on your wisdom?
It seems like such an innocent, little bias now, doesn't it? I've seen this particular bias, shape lives hugely, sometimes in a negative way and sometimes in a positive way. I think it stems from we are always too aware. We are at the center of our world. We create our world. We are this. So being there in that state, we are conscious about ourself and how we project ourselves to the world, whereas how the world perceives us, it's not may not be may not be the same way that we perceive that the world is perceiving us. How we feel that the world is seeing us may not be the same way that the world is actually seeing us. But for us, how we see how the world is perceiving us is more important, because we are our focal point, right? So this can be a good thing and a bad thing. In personally, I have observed that this is a huge thing when you are actually stepping into. I've seen my own journey when I look back and connect the dots. I've seen that this has been a huge, you know, uh, shaping a factor when you step into puberty.
Very
So
interesting
for
point.
young adults, for young adults, it seems to be extremely. Now my daughter is 9. I see that she is very conscious about how she is projecting, how world perceives her. So I've seen this not just in my daughter. I've seen in many young people how the world perceives them, how what image they are presenting to the world is extremely important, because they feel that they are being constantly noticed. It could be due to multiple things. It could be due to the constant conditionings that we as parents give, or our parents give us, like how you are supposed to behave in a certain way, or you are supposed to project yourself in a certain way, because the society is watching you and judging us through you. It could be that conditioning that is leading into this bias. regardless, whatever it may be, I've seen it shaping and influencing lives a lot when you are a young, you know, stepping into teenage, stepping into puberty, becoming an individual, in your own estimation, you're becoming an individual worth noticing.
So this is a very interesting point in a world where we have so many social media platforms. And also in those social media platforms, you have these effects where you can beautify yourself when you're trying to post a picture, a video or what it could be. So you're always trying to, trying to see, okay, maybe you're trying to overestimate how much people are paying attention to your appearance in social media, or maybe your behavior, or even when you go to a community, a public forum. And like giving attention is different versus how obsessive you are about that. How much you give, importance to that. What will it cost? I think that's a question we have to ask ourselves, I think, in this scenario. When you want to think about that, okay, what does it cost for me to keep worrying about how this person is thinking about my dress code, my FB post, my Instagram post? So because I think that's the reason people also go back and forth and check how many likes did I get, how many hearts did I get, to know what the other person is thinking about my post. So I think it's a kind of bias, which spotlight. It's nicely called a spotlight effect, right? Yeah, you are trying to like put yourself on your own onto a spotlight and trying to see that how are you being seen by the other person? Is it in a nice way or not? Okay, and I think you're also becoming more self-critical, if I'm not mistaken, when you're trying to explore this bias. So this actually leads me to the topic that you're going to talk about for the conference next month, which is in May. Can you tell me how the topic that you're going to talk about in that 1 hour session, and why what is the topic and why it's so important for people to be part of this exploration in relevance to this bias?
So what I'd really like to talk about in your session in May is about perceptions and how they influence our reality, or how perception shapes the world around us. um, and this topic is important, if you ask me, because often reality, one does not one is, if we allow perception to shape our reality, one is unable to experience reality in its fullness, in its totality, with all the possibilities of what is there, because we are allowing the perception to put us in a box and to view reality through that box, through that lens, thereby not allowing us to see what else is possible, what else is there. So, for example, the spotlight effect. When you are allowing the spotlight bias to shape our reality, or how our worldview, a lot of the things that you genuinely want to be or do or express, that are truly expressive of you, are unable to be expressed in the way that you would like them to be, because you're constantly, reminding yourself that people are looking at you and this is not acceptable. So it's not just that, the thing about this bias is that it's not just about being, constantly aware or perceiving that there is a focus on you. It's also about why in having such a focus on you, presenting yourself in a way that is acceptable to the larger society out there for a certain, there's a need for validation, for attention, for validation, for popularity, for a validation for your existence as a valuable human being, or an admirable human being, or an exceptional human being, you know not just an ordinary existing human being. There is always this urge to present yourself in a way that is acceptable or admired by others, you know so that so how does that, I mean, how are we able to view reality and utilize the reality that's out there to the best possible advantage, or the best possible, live life in the best possible way, or engage with life in the best possible way, when you are allowing yourself to be boxed in by multiple perceptions and only choosing a tiny bit of a lens to look at reality, whereas the reality is like the sea around us, and we are using a tiny lens to look at one part of it, and you're missing the entire picture. So that's a very sad way to utilize life, to engage with life, and to live our day to day. Whereas we are beings of limitless potential. Our potential is limitless. But from the moment we are born as unlimited beings, we are being told, from the time of birth, we are being told that you can't do this. This is not something you should do. This is not how you should be. So it's always no, no, not, this is not acceptable. This is not, these are done with the best of intentions, possibly. But there should be a time in life where you can choose to be aware that these are conditions that are imposed on us. This is not our reality. And there should be an awareness that we can choose our reality.
It just reminds me of this question that I asked, like, because I also have had childhood where I've come with a lot of rules and standards, and like when they say that you should do, should not do, have to do, can't do, can do, I ask this question, like, based on whose standards? Who sets the standard for this? So with that inquiry, you have any thoughts to share here? Bindhu, I see you smiling.
Yes, that's a large question. Who is the air quote, who decides the standards?
Yeah.
For a child, the parent. For the parent, the society. For the society, who? Right now, in this day and age of mass media and social networking and all of that, who decides the standards? Who is managing perceptions? If it's my perception,
Yes.
then it does it feel right that something else, somewhere else, is managing it? Or should it be myself who is in control of my awareness, and why should my perception be managed by some? Is that acceptable to me? What is it that is managing this whole game of existence? The way I engage with life, what is managing it? It's something to think about. If nothing else were managing it, if I was to manage it myself entirely, what would it be like? What would that be like?
Yeah.
That's something to think about, isn't it?
It's a wonderful place to, I think, leave this conversation with the audience to think about until we connect again for the session. So we warmly welcome all the audience out there to the session that Bindhu and myself will be holding the space together for you, where we will be exploring this about perceptions. I think the whole world is co-created based on the perceptions, and it's important, I think, to understand the perceptions and how it's creating the reality and how these biases, cognitive biases, also contributing to that, to co-create a world with harmony and understanding, and with peace. I think there's somewhere I read recently that if each one of us can find peace within our own selves, the world will be at peace. You don't have to go and make the world to be at peace. So we have to start working on our own peace. So to work on
And
your
the key
peace,
thing, and the key thing that you mentioned there is if each one of us can find peace within ourselves, because peace is different for each individual. And it is important that each individual finds it at their own level, because there's no one uniform standard. This is what is uniformity? When each individual is created unique and is unique in their perceptions and in their characteristics and in their worldview, how can one standard apply across? So that's the key point. Then I think what we need to take away is, that the key point in what you mentioned is each individual finding peace or harmony or acceptance, or acceptance for themselves.
Yes.
Being
Yes.
at harmony with themselves that's the key, really, isn't it? I think that's the key point.
I really love that you highlighting that point. Like, peace can look differently for different individuals, and you are the only person who will know how to find that peace. And that's why we are creating this coaching space for for clients to get into that space, and coaching supervision for coaches to get into that space. And because I think it's like a continuous journey, you can't say that, okay, I've got my certificate now, I'm at peace, I've found what it is. It's not like that. Like, we are living in a world of chaos. So this is like a continuous journey that we need to keep working on until our last breath. So with that thought, we will see you in the space. We warmly welcome all of you to explore about these perceptions with the intention to reduce the cognitive biases that exist in this world, and also to co-create a world in harmony with peace and more understanding, so that to serve the greater good. Thank you so much, Bindhu, for being part of this conversation. And I look forward
Thank you,
to see
Anushly,
you.
for having me.
I look forward to see you with you and the audience in the upcoming session. Thank you and take care.
Thank you. I look forward to it myself.